Thus, to share his expertise on using games as a powerful tool for learning. Mr. Memon, an advocate for transformative learning, combines game design, neuroscience, and cognitive development in his approach. His platform Evivve has hosted over 20,000 games and embodies his vision for behavioral change through game-based learning. So I welcome him for his workshop session on neuroscientific approach to learning. I welcome him to the dais. Yes, let's give him a warm round of applause.
I want to do like a little exercise. Can I ask you all to please stand up? Can we do that? Please stand up a little bit, yeah? Move around a little bit, yeah? Look around. Yeah, you got some people around you, by the way. These are some really smart, intelligent people. Say hello. Yeah, say hello to your friends in the room. All right, and you can grab a seat now. Thank you very much. This was a little activation exercise. You're going to know what that means in just a minute. I've been hearing about all of everything that you guys have been talking about today, and what I realize is at the end of the day, we're serving the same community. How many of us here design products? Can I see a show of hands? I just want to get a sense of who's in the room. Yeah, how many of us design various types of technologies? Yeah, how many of us design learning of different sorts? Many teachers, instructors in the room. Yeah. How many of us design for other humans? All of our hands should go up right about now, right? Okay. What I'm going to share with you today is a model that we discovered, and if we have time towards the end, then we're going to do a little exercise as well, and this is going to be followed up by a workshop that I'm running tomorrow where you'll actually get to experience this model firsthand. So, Wanakam. Did I say that right? Yep. I hope I did. So we're going to cover two things in 20 minutes, and we're going to do two things essentially. We're going to discover a new model, and then we're going to learn the model, and we're going to get a kind of a up-close and person sort of experience with the model, if you will. Those are the two things we're going to do. And essentially what you need to remember are these 5 things that you're going to discover today. All right? It's called AFER, A-F-E-R-R, and it's all going to make sense. It's going to come together. By the way, I didn't make this in my backyard. Well, I kind of did at first, but now it's legit. So many companies are using this, and as you can see that the model, the game that I built, the learning system that I built called Evivve, built on the model, is being used by organizations across the board. And the research that I'm going to be sharing with you guys today is a culmination and a result of about 20,000 game sessions, or game containers, if you will, delivered by 400 practitioners who are, you can call them trainers, facilitators, learning professionals. And it's deployed to over 100,000 people across the globe. So what I'm sharing with you guys today is the essence of what we've discovered. And I believe that if you're designing product, if you're designing programs, if you're designing systems, if you're designing learning, if you're designing anything for the human brain, this model is going to become essential for you to consider when looking at what's happening inside of a human brain at the time of making decision. And I'll tell you a little bit more about the research that we're doing and what's coming ahead, what's in the near future for us as well. So here's a quick snapshot of what the model is. It's, as you know, it's called the AFER model, and it starts with activation. Anything and everything starts with activation. You've had and activation is a very simple way of looking at this, is a feeling, right? So think about how you came here, how you ended up here today. You ended up here because you had a feeling of excitement. You had a thought that, hey, it would be cool to attend this XR conference. It would be cool to listen to other professionals talk about it. And so there was an activation. It was a feeling of curiosity, of interest, of something that new that you're going to discover. Once you were activated, in that very sense, you went into forecasting. What would it be like? Who's coming? Let me find out the speakers. Let me see the agenda. Let me see the list, so I can better understand and forecast if this is going to help me. Yeah, and I'm going to break this down a little bit more and talk to you guys a little bit about the neuroscience behind this, because my work intersects 3 different disciplines and industries. I work at the intersection of neuroscience, game design, and learning. After you've done enough forecasting, and forecasting varies for different people, some of us might like to jump right into experimentation. Some of us need to plan. We need to think about what we're going to do. We need to really dot the I's and cross the T's, if you will. And we've got to make sure we've got that right before we can jump into experimentation. But this is the natural progression of how the human brain deals with new information and how the human brain interacts with the world around it. After experimentation, there's a realization that's happening. And this realization is happening at a really micro level, meaning that you're having realizations right now. For example, this gentleman here got thirsty. He had the realization he wanted a drink of water, right? And that realization is very, very visceral. It's something that's happening to us all the time. And realization is a very, very critical part of the human brain and the human processes as well, which we're going to break down a little bit further as well. Quick question for you guys. How do you think we learn? How do you think that the human brain has evolved to learn? Can I get a show of hand across the room? How many people say reading? Learn by reading. A couple of people, okay. Writing? How many people say writing is how we learn? Acting. Yeah. So we learn in numerous ways, no doubt about it, but acting brings that learning, makes it real, brings it to life. And this is where experiential technology comes in, doesn't it? This is where XR actually lives. It's in the experience of life. And that happens through action. And here's a quick little image. What does that look like to you? This is how we've been learning for 300 years, by the way. And I know at least one person in this image is posing. Yeah? Tough crowd in here. How you guys doing? Is this making sense? 300 years is how we've been learning like this. All right? I'm going to break this down from a perspective of how the human brain has evolved to learn. Think about a cave woman. Back in the day, she's just discovered this new way of hunting a deer. And she's figured it out, she's got it right, and it's the end of the season. So now, she's got to remember this for the next season. Otherwise, the human brain, by the way, this is a bug or a feature, you call it whatever you want, but we love to forget. And we forget in order to make more space for new learning and new insight. So it's actually a feature, right? So that you can make new neural pathways. How many of us here design LLMs or work with LLMs in any way, AI? A few people in here. You've heard of neural networks, right? It's based on the human brain. So there are neural networks behind the scenes that are taking place, and all of that is creating what we call the learning process, because the human brain has evolved to learn. We learn as for a living, as a matter of fact. If we don't learn, we're unable to deal with the circumstances, the situations, the world around us. By the way, can you imagine putting that cave woman into a classroom? That's what she would look like. That was AI. Yes, AI generated. I told AI to take a cave woman from that story and put her in a classroom. Look how terrified she looks. Right? This is not a dig on education system. This is a talk about how the human brain works and how it learns. And that's what we're really talking about here. Moving on. I want to quickly orient you with the right side of the screen that you're looking at. There are a list of 5 things, and each of them are activation, forecasting, experimentation, realization, and reflection. And we're going to talk about each of these real quick in less than 10 minutes. Awesome. So keep an eye on the right side to kind of get an idea of what stage we're at and what stage we're talking about. So let's talk about activation. Where does activation come from? It comes from curiosity. It comes from intrigue. It comes from any kind of emotion, as a matter of fact. Either you're getting activated or you're getting deactivated. So you think about the circle of emotions, the wheel of emotions that has a range of feeling good, happy, surprised, sad, disgusted, and the range, right? All of these are emotions that activate or deactivate. Great learning experiences, or great experiences on the whole, start with curiosity or start with a feeling. When there's a feeling in place and there's a neurological reason for this? What is the neurological understanding of it? The human brain is trying to make sense of its environment, of its world for survival. And it discovers a gap in its understanding. And what it wants to do is fill that gap with whatever new information it can catch a hold of. So sometimes the information that this gap is filled with is also inaccurate. So the human brain's KRA is fill the gap, right? And it can sometimes fill it with wrong information or wrong realizations. This is what we call superstitions, by the way, right? Moving on. I want to give you guys a scenario with a little kind of a diagram description of what we're looking at. What we're really focusing on is consideration and not attention. How many of us have heard this generation lacks attention spans? 2 hands up over here, yeah? Many people, we all believe that this generation especially lacks attention span. The truth is, it's actually that it's not that we lack attention span, it's that we lack consideration spans. We spend very little time considering what it is that we're going to spend our time doing. Is this worth my time is a question we ask ourselves, right? Think of yourself flipping through channels on Netflix. You're looking for something that is familiar enough, but different enough. If it's too familiar, it's boring, I'm bored, right? And what you're really looking at is these 3 things here can be attributed to kind of like a mental gap. Think of it as a gap in the human brain understanding. Now, if the thing that's filling the gap is too small, it leads to boredom. If it's too big, it leads to overwhelm. So you've got great technology, you spend millions of dollars building your technology, but it overwhelms your user. You got a problem, right? What you're looking for is different enough, yet familiar enough. And that creates excitement, it creates a range of emotions that get associated with that feeling as well. Now, once you've been activated, the human brain does something very naturally. It's almost like it's going to happen inherently. Whether you do anything about it or not, it's going to do it. Something that you all are doing right now. What are you guys all doing right now? Connecting, forecasting, right? You're thinking ahead, and you're like, where is this going? How is this going to help me? How will I be able to use this in my work? How will I be able to design better models, better business, better structures, better whatever? And that's what the human brain does. It wants to start to forecast about the future. That's what you're looking at here, which is how the human brain starts to plan ahead and starts to forecast. Now, what's interesting about forecasting, by the way, is that we have our affinities. We have a more optimistic view of the world, so our forecasts tend to revolve around that. Or we could have a more cautionary view of the world, and so our forecasts tend to revolve around that. You guys with me so far? Making sense? Yeah, all the way back there? Yeah? Cool. Got a couple of thumbs up there. Awesome. So that's what we did. We're checking in with what's happening in your mind right now. This is meta, right? You're able to, because the tool that you need, we're all sitting with right now. What's the tool that we need? The brain. We all have it. That's the main tool, right? Like, that's the thing that you got to work with, essentially. And this is where your XR, your technology, your environment, your medium comes into play, which is the environment, the experimentation. Now, once the human brain has made up its mind of what it wants to do, it's done a bunch of forecasts, it's created maybe 5 shortlist forecasts, and there's one. There's that one thing that you're going to do, and that's the step you want to take. As a matter of fact, all of you guys are a part of an experiment right now. And there are 4 building blocks required for an effective experimentation. I heard a few people talk about this earlier today as well. Psychological safety is at the bedrock. It's the foundation of what makes an experiment successful. If your life was threatened, you would not be here today. Guaranteed, right? So it starts with psychological safety. If you felt that you're going to be bullied here, you are not going to be here today, right? You showed up because you felt psychologically safe, and that's why you're here, and that's why it's the bedrock of any experimentation which you're a part of right now. The second building block of an experimentation environment, is single and multiplayer ecosystems. Single player systems are great for practice, while multiplayer systems are great for interaction and learning, social learning, and learning from each other, social emotional skills. Non-binary choices, where no choice is leading to a definite, direct answer or result. There's no right or wrong, much like life, isn't it? And lastly, it needs non-linear pathways, ones that go in different directions and fundamentally lead you to have the realization that you wanted to begin with. So you're in the middle of your own experiment right now, and I hope that you all will have great realizations, or already are having great realizations in this process. And I'm going to break down the 2 R's of AFR in just a moment right now, where we'll talk about realization and reflection in less than 3 minutes. That's going to be pretty awesome to do. Realization is about the cadence to check your work. It's about being able to assess what your forecast was and what was the outcome of that. This realization is critical to learning. If we don't have this realization, we will not learn. We will learn the wrong things, as a matter of fact. It's about consolidation, it's about planned versus reality, and it's about correcting your prediction errors, because your brain is a prediction machine. It's creating predictions about the future all the time. Some of us think, oh, why am I always thinking negative thoughts? Because you're predicting that. It's a way of creating safeguard. You're helping yourself deal with whatever future outcome may emerge as a result of that. So think of this familiar diagram, or the missing piece, rather, as the requirement. Like, this was the requirement that your brain had to solve, which is the thing that it got activated about, right? And then that's your expectation, and that's your reality. Now, if your reality is close enough to your expectation and to your requirement, it's a pretty good situation. You're feeling pretty good about it. You've had a positive realization. You gained something meaningful from that experience. But what happens when your reality looks like that? You made your requirement for your learning or for your activation was X, your expectation was Y, but your reality is like a bolt of lightning. How do you deal with that? Right? And this happens all the time. When we're living life, sometimes we come across situations where our expectations and realities don't match. And this is where the last stage of the AFR model comes in, which is reflection. So for simple realizations, it's a very simple consolidation. But for a complex realization, for something that is very different, much like the shape that we saw just now, it's a very, it requires deep reflection. It requires you to take time away, to spend that time in reflection, process that, and draw insights from that. So together, this is called the AFR model. And if you'd like, you can scan this QR code and download the paper that I wrote on the AFR model, which was published at Stanford last month. I gave a talk at a UN event at Games for Change last month as well. And I broke down the AFR model in both of those cases. Now, I've only got about 40 seconds to close this. But in essence, what you're looking at is a developmental model for the brain. It's the simplest model that currently exists to help you understand how the human brain is navigating through the various processes that are currently internalized. And understanding this will help you to understand, how do you activate your users? How do you support them in their forecasting process? How do you provide the right environment for them to experiment with your tool or technology or your product? And lastly, most importantly, what is the kind of learning, realization, outcome, or result that we want from this design? So 2 things in 20 minutes. Hopefully you've discovered the model and learned it as well. If you are interested in learning the model further, I will invite you to come and join the class, the workshop that I'm hosting tomorrow at 1:45 in Hall 2, I think, in Hall 2. And there we'll actually experience the AFR model firsthand. And if that's something that you're interested in, then I'm just going to skip ahead real quick and give you the QR code to scan and show your interest for registering for tomorrow's session, if that's something of interest to you. But I want to leave you with this one little thought, and we're going to open up the room for questions if I do have any time at all. I do. I have a few minutes. Thank you. So the invitation to you is that this model, this work is bigger than me. And I just happen to be in the right place at the right time to be able to discover it. But really, this model will require all of our brilliant brains put together in order to craft the future of how we understand and merge and bring in the power of the human brain into products and into our design and into whatever it is that we ultimately create. So that's my invitation to you. Thank you so much for listening to me. Thank you. Cool. I'll take any questions if you guys have any.
Please
Anything?
feel free to ask Mr. Memon any questions.
Thanks. Either that went over your head or bouncer. Yes,
Okay.
of course.
Very simple question.
Sure.
How do you build this kind of experience and convert it a kind of fun? How do you build this kind of experience? Then you create the content and you conclude and then you share.
It's actually very simple. What you're really doing with this is you're effectively looking at the model called the AFR model, right? You're thinking about how you're activating an individual's curiosity. What kind of feelings are emerging through whatever it is that you've given them to activate. For example, I tell you a story. Watching that video that we watched, that Rami showed us earlier, that activated something within us, right? We felt a certain feeling. That's an example of that. But it's essentially what we need is a holistic view of what's happening in an individual's brain. And a big part of that is the work that I'm doing at Evivve Labs as well, which is to map human cognition to game components and game mechanics. So that within a game, if we're able to control the stimuli of what an individual is responding to or interacting with, then we can control and measure the outcome. And we're able to then show what activates, what's your name, sir? Rabinder. What activates Rabinder? And in what context does he get overactivated, hyperactivated, or deactivated, right? Understanding that will enable me and empower me to be able to push the right kind of activation resources to you that will get you to forecast and then experiment. If you get stuck between activation and forecasting, that's what we call anxiety, by the way. Thank you.
Thank you,
Any other
Mr.
questions?
Memon.
I think I'm done.
Yeah, cool.
Catch me outside or we can talk more.
There is one more
What?
question, last
Okay,
question. Can you please pass the mic to audience here?
It's okay. I'll do it.
Good.
So my question to you is, anxiety, is it because you don't have adequate information? Because many a times we don't have adequate information. We're just thrown apart. We don't know how to handle it. We don't have the right answers. Once we figure that out, we are in a better comfort zone. So how do you deal with that?
Yeah, it's about affinities and it's about opportunity. So the affinity is your natural tendency of how much experimentation, how much forecasting you need to take action and move into experimentation. And it's about opportunity. If you don't have the opportunity, you can't experiment. And that's where XR technologies are going to be so important, because they give us those experimental environments that we can create and provide the safety for them to take action. And I think it can be very therapeutic as well as a design. Thank you for that question. Thank you very much.
Let's give a warm round of applause to Mr. Memon. And that was a quite engaging talk.